Good morning, friends. Just getting back from Jurassic Park for Jurassic World. As you can see, Black Sock event. Let's get right into it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. So, the good. The opening premise is at least one that is interesting. I think that all of us, who grew up from the 80s and, were the right age kind of when the first Jurassic Park came out, and right age to read the book, and right age to kind of follow the movies in order as they've been released, have always wanted to see what it would be like if the park was fully functioning as like a live amusement park. And you finally get to see that. It's a cool premise, and it raises the risks and the heights of possible tension when you have so many visitors on a day-to-day basis that can be put in harm's way. It does also take a theme of Jurassic Park to the next level. One of the themes of Jurassic Park is always been the man playing God type of deal. At what point does man's manipulation of science interfere with the natural way of things and pervert it? And you get to see some of that, take full effect. And you get to see it subtly, which is a nice touch. We don't spoil too much here on these reviews, but like petting zoos, with dinosaurs and kids riding baby triceratops and just stuff like that. It's an interesting and unique twist, and not something that we're used to seeing within this context, but something that we're used to seeing within, regular life. The cast is pretty solid. It's a bunch of like B-list people, but they're all high quality B-list people, which is a nice choice. A lot of times they'll use bigger name B-list people that actually can't act very well. They just have more of a name tied to them. I'm looking at you, Tyrese. In this particular circumstance, they use B-list people that are actually extremely talented at their craft for the most part. They use the Asian guy from Oz. He's awesome. They use the Indian guy from In Treatment. He's awesome. They use the fat guy from Full Metal Jacket. He's awesome. And I don't mean to say B-list like it's a bad name. I just mean it is what it is kind of a thing. Like Tom Cruise is like a big name. Mark Wahlberg is like a big name. And these people, their names are not as big. And in a lot of cases, they're a lot more talented. I'm just using the name generically. The effects are all pretty much top shelf. The dinosaurs look good. It all kind of looks good. The bad. There's always got to be some bad. And in this particular case, one of the things that really sinks in for me is the gap isn't bridged well from the previous 3 films to this one. You're just kind of expected to roll with it. And it is kind of a soft reboot, so I get it. And I understand that they don't want to waste a whole bunch of time getting people up to speed and make sense of something that's really nonsensical. I understand all those things. But for someone like me, I automatically begin to lose interest because I'm like, well, you don't care about how this ties in, so why should I care about how this ties in? And not to say that it doesn't tie in. Like, they do make some loose strands between Dr. Wu, and they do make some loose strands with Engine and stuff like that, and they even tie back to Hammond a little bit, but it's not enough to sell it to me. Another one of my issues is they fall into that same Jurassic Park formula. Like, all the Jurassic Park films have, a certain formula to them. Like, we introduce the characters, we introduce the raptors, we have the threat of the biped monster, we escape the biped monster, we have the threat of the raptors, and we resolve itself. And there's, different choices in how those are executed and how it's displayed to us, but there is a formula to it, and this one's not really much different. Once again, there's nothing identical. It just kind of follows the same rhythm, which to me is getting a little tired, especially when the context of this film and the premise and that it's taking place in this park where there's all these people and the park is open for business. There's just so much room there for a different type of movie, and they don't really necessarily explore that. There's also some plot conveniences, and if you know me, I hate plot conveniences. one thing that I want to address, and I hope it doesn't spoil anything for anyone. It's not like a major plot thing or anything, but two of the stars of this film are kids, and they seem to come from kind of yuppie-esque environments, and they're into their cell phones. The older one's into his cell phone, the younger one's into dinosaurs. Like, he's kind of a nerdy type of kid, and the older one's like a modern day kid. But then all of a sudden he displays like mechanic ability, and they make a quick reference to try to explain why, but it's just like, okay, it's just very convenient. And that's actually a big issue for me. Not the convenience, although that is an issue, but there's basically two human plots going on. There is a plot with these two kids and their family, and then there is a plot with the female lead and her kind of relationships, and also it deals with, she becomes like a Hammond type character, more so from the books than from the movie, but it directly relates to how she prioritizes things in her life, right? And I don't think that the way that this movie is, how everything is very much on the surface, needed two heavy plots. And I'm using the term heavy loosely, but I don't think it needed two sets of human plots. I think either the kids could have been enough or she could have been enough, but I don't think that they were both necessary, because they aren't really able to pay enough attention to either to make you give a shit about either. The ugly is very difficult to talk about without spoiling. So let me see how I'm going to do it. We are accepting, as we walk into this film, to live in a world of fantastic things, where dinosaurs can be walking amongst human beings. We accept this. They give us a little bit of science to make us kind of say okay, and we just kind of roll with it in order to buy in. Now, as long as everything is kind of done tastefully from then on out, it makes for like a really good film and a really good action film, a summer blockbuster and popcorn movie and all that kind of stuff. It's a fine line to balance. There are things that can take you right out of that experience, where you no longer buy into it, where it starts to seem goofy and silly. And I'm not going to say what those things are, because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But I am going to say a phrase that my kid said. I was able to take my kid to this, and my oldest, and she said it to me on the way back, and I think she summed it up beautifully when she called this one moment in the film The Adventures of the Dino Buddies. That was a hard one for me to get over, and don't think that I didn't try. The only upside to that is that you can kind of look at it as, okay, they understand that they're playing in a world that might be overdone. They're definitely going with the more dinosaurs, more mayhem type of approach to it. So they threw everything they had at it and just said, you know what, to hell with everything, let's just have some fun. And that could theoretically be a saving grace, and I could get that. It actually got an applause in the theater that I was in, when my eyes were rolling so far into the back of my head that I was looking at my own thoughts of bewilderment about what I had just seen. Lastly, the only other thing that bothers me about this film in the ugly sense is the genetic manipulation of, kind of crossbreeding the species of dinosaurs. Because what it begins to do, like, I think that Jurassic Park is cool for a number of reasons, but one of the things is that I think in today's world it allows you to learn about dinosaurs in a very fictional yet cool way. My kid is a big fan of the 3 previous films and this one, to be fair, but she's learned a lot about different species of dinosaurs from watching those movies. And when you start to play with this, where the dinosaurs themselves become fictional characters, and then like when we go to Toys R Us and we see the toys, and there's like the Stegatops or the Triceratops and stuff like that, where they're just trying to market a toy for sale. They're taking the coolest things of the Stegosaurus and the coolest things of the Triceratops and combining them in order to make a product to market to children. That product is now no longer even educational in the slightest bit. It's just nonsense. And that for me is irritating. Now, I did take my kid to this, and it was opening night, and she was super excited. So like I enjoyed watching it through her eyes, and she loved it. My kid is 6, so if they're in the right age group, they'll enjoy dinosaurs and all that, they're going to love the movie. And it'll be worth taking them to see it, because it's a fun movie to sit back and just have fun. Just don't ask too many questions. Don't dig too far into the plot, and you won't be as irritated as kind of Uncle Skullface ends up being about stuff like that. Just take it at face value and don't ask a bunch of questions. Pretend you're working for the CIA as like a subcontractor. Does that make sense? My kid loved it, so your kid probably will too. If I'm grading this thing, I'd probably give it a 6, maybe a 5 out of 10. And more dinosaurs, more mayhem. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care. Toy World Combiner Monday.